What happens when an ordinary high school student sees the future? The Tyke AI who sees the future. Chapter 23 The Mafia. Villano Beverage, a small Italian company, had gained great popularity by producing local specialties. However, due to financial difficulties, managing the company became challenging. The company's CEO, Marco Villano, went around asking various banks for investment. Marco walked into a bank, took a seat across from a representative, and said, "Hello, I'm Marco from Villano Beverage. I'd like to discuss the possibility of you investing in our company." The bank employee, reviewing some documents, responded, "Mr. Marco, as I mentioned before, we highly value your company's potential. We are positively considering the investment possibility." But when Marco visited the bank again the next day, the situation was completely different. The bank employee, with a stern expression, said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Marco. Under the current circumstances, it's difficult to invest." Marco, with a surprised look, asked, "You said yesterday that it was possible. What changed so suddenly?" The bank employee, avoiding eye contact, replied, "I'm really sorry. Unfortunately, we cannot assist you." As Marco left the bank, dejected, the employee received a call. A strange voice spoke, "You're doing well. Your family's safety will be ensured." The employee, trembling with fear, responded, "Understood. I will do my best." Ultimately, Marco had no other choice. He had to ask for help from Vincenzo, a mafia boss. Vincenzo, exploiting Marco's desperation, invested an excessive amount of money into Villano Beverage and then pressured the company, exploiting its profits. "We can't endure this any longer. There's no way to escape from the mafia's grip," Marco said in despair. Giulio, the CEO of an Italian investment company, Atlas Investment, was recently reviewing a list of companies seeking investors. He instructed his staff to investigate the companies that had recently requested investments. "Here's the list of companies that have recently requested investments. Investigate why some of them have not yet received funding," Giulio said. The staff immediately began their investigation and returned shortly with a report. "Giulio, our investigation shows that several companies, including Villano Beverage, have not received investments due to mafia interference. Among them, Roma Food and Bergamo Textile are also under mafia pressure." Giulio fell into deep thought. Mafia involvement. All these companies have great potential. If we support them, it could be a significant opportunity. But the risk is considerable. The staff nodded in agreement. "That's right. However, if we approach this cautiously, we might be able to help these companies." Giulio arranged a meeting with Marco to directly assess Villano Beverage's situation. He visited Marco at Villano Beverage's office. "Hello, Mr. Marco. I am Giulio from Atlas Investment," Giulio said, extending his hand. Marco shook his hand and replied, "Nice to meet you, Mr. Giulio. Thank you for taking an interest in our company." Giulio looked around the office and said, "The products produced here are excellent. But I heard you've been struggling financially recently." Marco sighed and answered, "That's right. We couldn't secure funds from banks or other investors. Everyone is avoiding us because of the mafia's pressure." Giulio paused in thought and then said, "It seems our Atlas Investment might be able to support your company. However, there are a few conditions. First, the mafia's influence must be completely eliminated." Marco, surprised, asked, "Is that even possible? The mafia is too powerful." Giulio, with a firm expression, replied, "It is possible. We will provide the necessary funding and support for management. We can cut off the mafia's involvement and help normalize your business." Giulio took out some documents and continued explaining, "Here is the investment contract. It has been drafted under very favorable terms for your company." Marco, examining the documents, looked surprised. "Such favorable terms, I can't believe it. I am very grateful. But are there any hidden motives behind this investment?" Giulio smiled and replied, "Of course. We highly value Villano Beverage's potential and believe it has a high chance of success. Moreover, if your company succeeds, a new market will emerge in Italy. If that happens, Italy will gain significant benefits. Right now, we aim to revitalize not just one company but the entire market. After a moment of contemplation, Marco nodded. Understood. I will accept your help. Giulio handed the documents to Marco and said, sign here, and the funds will be transferred immediately. Marco signed the documents and said, thank you, Mr. Giulio. Truly, thank you. On the beaches of Majorca, Leonardo and Maria were enjoying a peaceful time. The sound of waves and the tranquility of the beach surrounded them. Suddenly, Frank's voice broke their peace. Leonardo, Maria, there's something urgent we need to discuss. What's going on, Frank? Frank spoke in a tense voice. We need to get to Italy quickly. Giulio has made a risky investment. The companies involved have ties to the mafia. Maria looked at Leonardo with a shocked expression. We need to leave right now. Leonardo nodded and said, all right, Frank, we'll get ready soon. They quickly left the beach and returned home. Leonardo urgently called their lawyer handling matters in Italy, but the call didn't go through. I can't reach them. Something seems off, Leonardo said with concern. We can't delay any longer. Let's leave right now, Maria suggested. Leonardo and Maria quickly arranged for a private jet and headed straight for Italy. Vincenzo received reports that several companies he had been working to acquire were suddenly paying off their debts. His subordinates were surprised by the company's sudden acquisition of funds. Boss, the companies we were planning to acquire are all paying off their debts. We should investigate how this happened, one subordinate suggested. Vincenzo, hearing this, angrily ordered, investigate immediately. Find out who provided the funds and how they managed to do so. His subordinates swiftly began their investigation as per Vincenzo's orders. A few days later, they discovered that Atlas Investment had injected funds into these companies. Boss, our investigation shows that Atlas Investment has injected funds into these companies. Their financial strength seems much stronger than expected, one subordinate reported. Upon hearing this, Vincenzo fell into deep thought. They can't just be a simple investment firm. Investigate their background thoroughly. Following Vincenzo's command, his subordinates began gathering all the information related to Atlas Investment in Italy. They investigated the company's financial records, investment history, and the backgrounds of key individuals, searching for clues. Boss, Atlas Investment operates with a high level of secrecy. However, we found traces of a large sum suddenly being infused into their financial records, one subordinate reported. During their investigation, they discovered that the initial capital for Atlas Investment came from Berlin Capital in Germany. Based on this information, the subordinates decided to investigate Berlin Capital next. In Germany, they focused their investigation on Berlin Capital. They analyzed the company's financial records, trying to trace the source of the initial capital. Berlin Capital's initial capital came from Versailles Investment in France, another subordinate reported. With this information, they decided to investigate Versailles Investment next. The subordinates contacted major financial institutions and individuals in Paris to gather information about Versailles Investment. Boss, Versailles Investment has been generating substantial profits in the renewable energy sector. However, their funding sources are very secretive, a subordinate reported. Vincenzo ordered his men to investigate if any of the companies they had investigated had invested in other investment firms in the past. The investigation revealed that about 20 investment firms were interconnected. Upon receiving the report, Vincenzo instructed them to analyze the commonalities of the 20 investment firms. The subordinates' analysis revealed that they were all forming small funds of similar amounts and generating significant profits. The profits from these funds were all being deposited into secret accounts in Switzerland. The subordinates compiled all the information collected from various countries and reported to Vincenzo. Boss, Atlas Investment and several investment firms are all interconnected. Their initial capital came from Berlin Capital and Versailles Investment, respectively. And these investment firms are operating funds with incredible returns on small amounts, one subordinate reported. These funds are all sending their profits to secret accounts in Switzerland. Tracking the flow of these funds, we found that enormous amounts of money are being moved from several secret accounts in Switzerland, another subordinate added. Vincenzo, hearing this report, grew deeply suspicious. They can't just be a simple investment firm. Investigate their background thoroughly, especially find out how those funds are generating such high returns. Just as his subordinates were about to leave, Vincenzo, after a moment of pondering, said, "They're all connected with lawyers, aren't they? Find out who the Italian lawyer is and bring him to me." Following Vincenzo's orders, the subordinates moved to locate the Italian lawyers. However, upon arriving at the lawyers' offices, they found that the lawyers had already disappeared. The offices were empty. "Boss, it seems the lawyers have already fled," a subordinate reported over the phone. Leonardo and Maria had anticipated Vincenzo's pursuit. They had prepared in advance, with Frank's help, to relocate the lawyers from each country to a safe place. Frank issued immediate orders for the lawyers to flee, and they quickly moved to a secure location. The lawyers have been safely relocated. It will now be even harder for them to be found, Frank reported to Leonardo and Maria. Leonardo sighed in relief and said, "Good, Frank. Their safety is crucial for us to move forward to the next step." Maria nodded in agreement. "We must do everything we can to escape Vincenzo's threat." The Italian lawyer Luca Marcello, upon receiving a call from Leonardo and Maria, immediately prepared to flee. He packed important documents within hours and prepared to move his family to a safe place. Frank instructed Luca to flee to a designated location. "Luca, your safety is the top priority. Move to the designated location right now," Frank said firmly. Luca, hurriedly getting into the car with his family, headed for a secret villa. As he drove, he spoke to Frank. "Understood, Frank. I'm on my way to the designated location." However, Luca deviated from Frank's designated route and headed to a secret villa in another city. He believed it would be safer there and that he could protect his family. Upon arriving at the secret villa, Luca felt a sense of relief. But his relief was short-lived. As soon as he entered the villa, Vincenzo's men were already there, waiting for him. "Luca Marcello, we've been expecting you," one of the men said with a sneer. Luca, taken aback, stepped back, but it was too late. Vincenzo's men grabbed him and tied him to a chair. He screamed in terror. "What's going on? Why are you doing this?" Vincenzo slowly approached, smiling. "Did you think you could deceive us? Now, tell me everything about Leonardo and Maria." Unable to withstand the torture, Luca eventually confessed information about Leonardo and Maria. "They are with someone named Frank. He is orchestrating everything. Their location is." Meanwhile, Leonardo and Maria, through Frank, learned that Luca had acted on his own and had been captured by Vincenzo. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Frank's voice came through. "We have no choice but to confront Vincenzo to stop his pursuit," but Maria shouted that it was out of the question. Leonardo reassured her, saying, "We've overcome many difficulties so far. We can do it this time, too." Leonardo, with determined resolve, decided to go alone to Vincenzo's secret villa. Maria couldn't accept his decision at first, but she eventually trusted and supported him. Guided by Frank, Leonardo headed to Vincenzo's secret villa. He was prepared to end his feud with Vincenzo through this final confrontation and start anew with Maria. Upon arriving at the villa, Leonardo was escorted by Vincenzo's men to stand before Vincenzo. Vincenzo greeted Leonardo with a relaxed smile. "Finally, we meet, Leonardo," Vincenzo said. "I'm dying to know how you managed to earn such massive profits." Leonardo stared at Vincenzo firmly and said, "I can't tell you that." Vincenzo's expression hardened as he moved closer. "If you don't tell me, I can't guarantee the safety of your life or Maria's." Leonardo suppressed his fear and stared straight into Vincenzo's eyes. "If you kill me, all your efforts will be meaningless. Without me, you'll never learn the secret." After a moment of silence, Vincenzo suddenly burst into laughter. "You're quite bold, Leonardo." He took a small USB drive from his desk drawer and handed it to Leonardo. "This contains cryptocurrency equivalent to $10 million. I'll give you a month. Turn this into 10 times its value. If not, I can't guarantee Maria's safety." Leonardo accepted the USB with a stern expression. "Fine. I will bring you the results you want." Vincenzo gave a cynical smile and said, "You have 1 month, Leonardo. If you don't bring back the results by then, your beloved Maria will no longer be safe." Leonardo met Vincenzo's gaze with strong determination and left the room. As he left the villa, Leonardo fell deep into thought. He could make enormous profits using Frank's predictions, but it was the most dangerous way to expose their existence to financial authorities and intelligence agencies. Back with Maria, Leonardo explained the situation while handing her the USB. "Maria, we have to make 10 times the profit with this right now. Otherwise, Vincenzo will hurt you," Leonardo said. Maria turned pale at his words. Using Frank's predictive ability might be possible, but doing so would attract the attention of financial authorities and intelligence agencies. "It's too dangerous." Leonardo nodded, unable to hide his frustration. "Yes, if we make such a big profit, we'll be exposed. But I can't think of any other options." Maria paused, deep in thought. "So what should we do? Is there no other way?" Leonardo looked at her with a troubled expression. "I don't know. Every option seems risky right now." At that moment, Frank's voice was heard. "Leonardo, Maria, there is another way.